All right, so today we're going to be diving deep into Spiritism.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at this guy named Léon Denis.
Okay.
And you sent over some great resources in both Portuguese and English.
Yes.
Excerpts from the Federação Espírita de Paraná website
Mm-hmm.
and his Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
And I think our mission today is to uncover who he was and why he matters.
Definitely.
And maybe even spark your curiosity about Spiritism itself.
Yeah, that's a great goal.
And one thing that I noticed right away
Okay.
was this title, Apostle of Spiritism.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps popping up.
Right.
That's not a casual label.
No, not at all.
It suggests someone who
Right.
deeply embodied and passionately spread these ideas.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder what kind of person earns a title like that.
Right. Like, where did he come from? How did he get involved?
Yeah.
What was his journey like?
Yeah, well, let's look at his journey.
Okay.
Léon Denis was born in 1846 in a small village in France.
Mm-hmm.
He came from humble beginnings, working class family,
Mm-hmm.
and get this, he was entirely self-taught.
Wow. Self-taught.
Wow, a self-taught apostle.
That's impressive.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It sounds like he was driven to learn from a young age.
It seems like he had this innate curiosity,
Yeah.
this thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
The Portuguese source even mentions that even as a child,
Wow.
he felt guided by unseen forces.
Really?
Almost like he was destined for something bigger.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So here he is, this curious young man seeking knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 18, he stumbles upon Allan Kardec's The Spirits book.
Yeah, a pivotal moment.
And it's like everything clicks into place.
Exactly.
He finds the answers he's been looking for.
Think about it. Kardec is considered the founder of Spiritism,
Right.
and Denis becomes completely captivated by his work.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Denis wasn't content with simply following Kardec's teachings.
Uh-huh.
He's also known as the consolidator.
Okay. I have to admit, that title needs a little unpacking.
Okay, sure.
What did he consolidate exactly?
So think of it like this.
Okay.
Kardec laid the groundwork for Spiritism,
Uh-huh.
but it was Denis who expanded upon it,
Okay.
systematized those ideas,
Okay.
and really brought them to the forefront.
So he's building on what, Kardec?
Yeah, building on those foundations,
Yeah.
making it accessible to a wider audience, both through his writing and his tireless lecturing across Europe.
Wow. So he was busy.
He was very dedicated.
And his dedication was incredible.
It really was.
Even after losing his sight later in life,
Yeah.
he learned Braille just to continue his work.
Talk about commitment.
Talk about commitment.
Wow.
That's what's so remarkable about Denis.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about intellectual understanding for him.
Mm-hmm.
It was about living these principles,
Right.
spreading the message.
Right.
And this brings us to the heart of Spiritism itself.
All right, let's dive in.
Sure.
What were the core beliefs?
That Denis dedicated his life to.
So, Spiritism, as championed by Denis,
Okay.
emphasizes several key principles.
Okay.
First, the survival of the soul after death.
Okay.
This wasn't simply about an afterlife.
Okay.
It was about a continuous journey
Okay.
of spiritual growth and evolution.
So it wasn't just a heaven or hell scenario.
Not at all.
Okay.
It was a much more nuanced view,
Okay.
incorporating the concept of reincarnation.
Reincarnation. Oh,
Denis believed we live multiple lives,
uh-huh.
learning and progressing with each one.
I see.
And a key part of this progression
Okay.
was communication with spirits.
Communication with spirits.
So not just as a way to connect with loved ones who've passed on,
Right.
but as a means of gaining knowledge and guidance from higher spiritual beings.
It sounds like a very dynamic view of the afterlife.
It is.
Always evolving, always learning.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of learning,
Yes.
you mentioned that we have a list of Denis's books.
We do.
Let's talk about those.
Absolutely.
The titles alone are intriguing.
They are.
For instance, you have After Death,
Mm-hmm.
which explores what happens to the soul after we die.
Right.
Then there's the problem of suffering,
Yeah,
a topic that's relevant to everyone,
absolutely.
regardless of their beliefs.
Mhm.
And one that really stands out is Christianity and Spiritism.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
Now, that title sounds bold, especially for the time period.
Yeah, he was definitely pushing some boundaries there.
Was he comparing the two?
He was, in a way.
Okay.
He was exploring the connections
Okay.
and potential conflicts between Spiritism and Christianity.
So maybe even critiquing established Christian doctrine.
He was doing both, actually.
Oh, wow.
Denis
Yes.
wasn't afraid to tackle difficult questions or
Yeah.
challenge traditional religious views.
It's amazing to think that someone coming from such humble beginnings
Mm-hmm.
could have such a profound impact
Right.
on how people view life, death, and everything in between.
It really is quite a story.
It's like a real-life hero's journey. That's a great way to put it.
And his personal life really reflected those heroic qualities.
Absolutely.
Remember those anecdotes from the Portuguese source?
Oh, yeah?
The one about his meeting with the researcher, Canuto Abreu? It paints a vivid picture of Denis as a man of immense kindness, humility, and insatiable curiosity.
Definitely.
Yeah, those stories really bring him to life.
They do.
He's not just some distant figure from history.
Right.
He's a real person with these incredible qualities.
A real person who walked the walk.
Yeah, and both sources emphasize his character.
Yeah.
Words like kind and selfless constantly pop up.
It's no coincidence.
Yeah.
Those virtues were deeply intertwined with his Spiritist beliefs.
So for him, it wasn't just an intellectual thing.
Well,
it was a way of life.
Exactly.
Striving for moral improvement wasn't some abstract concept.
It was woven into every interaction.
So we've got this fascinating figure.
We do.
A self-taught scholar.
Who rose to become a leading voice in Spiritism.
Yeah.
A man dedicated to expanding our understanding of the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm.
All while embodying those very principles in his own life.
That's Léon Denis.
But what does all this mean for us today?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Why should we care about Léon Denis in the 21st century?
Well, that's where Denis's lasting impact comes into play.
Yeah.
His work, those books we discussed,
right.
His tireless lectures,
yeah.
They all contributed to Spiritism blossoming into a global movement.
Wow, so he's not just a historical figure.
Yeah.
His ideas are still alive and well today.
Exactly.
And that's because...
I think it's because the questions he grappled with, the concepts he explored, these are timeless human concerns.
Right.
The afterlife, the nature of suffering, our purpose in life, these are things we all ponder.
Yeah.
And Denis offers a unique and compelling perspective on them.
That's true.
Yeah. And it's not just that he offered answers, but that he encouraged people to find their own truth.
Right.
One of his quotes really embodies this spirit.
Oh, okay.
He said, roughly translated from Portuguese, I dedicated this existence to the service of a great cause, Spiritism or modern spiritualism, which will certainly be the universal belief, the religion of the future.
That's a powerful statement.
It is.
Even if someone doesn't fully embrace Spiritism,
right?
That passion for seeking truth and contributing to a better world is definitely inspiring.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes studying figures like Denis so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not about agreeing with everything they said,
right,
but about understanding their perspective, the context of their time, and how their ideas continue to resonate today.
Exactly.
It also makes me think about how we often put people in boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a philosopher, or she's a scientist.
Yeah, right.
But Denis seems to transcend those categories.
He does.
He was a deep thinker, a researcher, a writer, a communicator, even an activist in a way.
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Denis really embodied a holistic approach to knowledge and life.
Yeah.
He didn't see these rigid boundaries between disciplines.
So he was kind of a Renaissance man?
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
He drew from science, philosophy, personal experience, and of course, his Spiritist beliefs to form his worldview.
It's like he was saying, don't limit yourself.
Exactly.
Explore, question, make connections. Yeah. And that's a message that feels particularly relevant today.
I agree.
In a world that's often so fragmented and specialized.
Yeah. In our information-saturated age, the ability to synthesize, to connect the dots, to think critically and independently, these are essential skills.
Yeah.
And Denis, in a way, was modeling those very skills over a century ago.
So for someone listening who's maybe just starting to learn about Spiritism, or even just curious about exploring different spiritual ideas, where would you recommend they begin with Denis's work?
That's a good question.
What's a good entry point?
Well, considering the listener has access to English sources, I'd recommend starting with After Death.
Okay.
It's a foundational text that delves into the core principles of Spiritism, the survival of the soul, the process of reincarnation, and the possibility of communication with those who have passed on.
And what about the problem of suffering?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, too.
That title alone seems to resonate with the human experience in a really profound way.
It does.
Yeah.
In that book, Denis tackles one of life's most challenging questions head on.
Which is?
The purpose of suffering.
Okay.
He explores it from both a personal and a spiritual perspective. It's a deep dive into how we can find meaning and growth even in the face of adversity.
Okay, and then there's the one we touched on earlier.
Which one?
Christianity and Spiritism.
Oh, right. Yes.
What makes that book particularly noteworthy?
I think what makes that book so fascinating is that it demonstrates Denis's willingness to engage with other belief systems.
Okay.
He's not just preaching Spiritism in isolation.
Right.
He's exploring its connections and potential conflicts with existing religious frameworks.
It sounds like he was really pushing boundaries,
He was.
sparking conversations,
Yes.
and challenging people to think critically about their own beliefs.
Exactly.
Which, when you think about it, is what deep dives are all about, right?
Precisely.
We're not here to provide definitive answers,
Right.
but to open up possibilities,
Yeah.
to encourage curiosity, and to inspire further exploration.
I like that.
Speaking of sparking curiosity,
Okay.
I have to bring up one more detail from those Portuguese sources.
All right.
Remember the researcher Canuto Abreu?
Yeah.
Who met with Denis?
Mm-hmm.
He described him as someone who always seemed to be
Yeah.
leaning forward and towards the heart.
That's such a beautiful image.
I know.
It perfectly captures the essence of Denis.
Yeah.
Intellectually curious, always seeking understanding,
Right.
but also deeply compassionate and connected to humanity.
It's like he embodied that balance
Yeah.
between head and heart,
Mm-hmm.
intellect and empathy.
Definitely.
It's something to aspire to, don't you think?
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
should never be divorced from our humanity.
Well said.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the life and legacy of Léon Denis,
We have.
this remarkable figure who emerged from humble beginnings to become a leading voice in the Spiritist movement.
It's quite a story.
We've explored his core beliefs, delved into his influential writings,
Yes.
and even glimpsed into his kind and compassionate nature.
He was a remarkable man.
But before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to circle back to the listener.
Yeah.
What's resonating with you?
Yeah. What are your takeaways?
What stands out?
It's a good question to consider.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Denis's dedication to knowledge and self-improvement, or his courageous exploration of challenging spiritual topics.
Right.
Perhaps it's the core tenets of Spiritism itself that spark your interest.
Yeah.
The idea of reincarnation, the possibility of communicating with loved ones who have passed on,
Right.
or the concept of spiritual evolution through multiple lifetimes.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
remember that curiosity is the starting point for all great journeys of discovery.
That's true.
And Denis's work is a treasure trove of insights and perspectives waiting to be explored.
It really is.
And if Léon Denis's story teaches us anything, it's that anyone, regardless of their background, can make a significant contribution to the world.
Yeah, his life really does exemplify that.
The power of self-belief, determination, and a deep commitment to one's values.
He really walked the walk.
Before we close,
Okay.
I wanted to touch on one final aspect of Denis's work that I found particularly intriguing.
Right.
He seemed to have a strong belief in the future, a future shaped by the principles of Spiritism.
Right.
Do you think that vision is still relevant today?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Denis envisioned a world where Spiritism would become a unifying force,
Okay.
fostering greater understanding, compassion, and spiritual growth among humanity.
A sort of spiritual awakening on a global scale.
Precisely.
And while it's impossible to predict the future of any belief system,
Right.
the core values that Denis championed, things like kindness,
Yeah.
selflessness, and the pursuit of knowledge, those are timeless and universally relevant.
I agree.
So even if someone doesn't necessarily embrace all the tenets of Spiritism, there are still valuable lessons and insights to be gained from exploring his work.
Absolutely.
Like he's inviting us to join him on this journey of exploration,
Yeah.
to keep questioning, keep learning,
Yeah.
and keep striving for a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe.
And that's a journey worth taking no matter where it leads.
Well said.
Thank you.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Well, it's been a pleasure diving into the life and legacy of Léon Denis with you today.
Likewise.
And to everyone listening,
Yes.
we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore further.
Definitely.
Remember, the journey of discovery doesn't end here.
It's a lifelong adventure.
Until next time, keep those minds open, those questions flowing,
Yeah.
and those hearts leaning forward and toward the heart, just like Léon Denis.
Beautifully said.